Welcome to the China Cash Buyers Podcast, ChinaCashBuyers.com, where we teach you the best tools and techniques, many of them free or very close to it, to help you build a clientele of wealthy Chinese buyers. I'm your coach, Paul Salo, and I've been doing this for almost 25 years. I speak Chinese fluently and have sold properties to Chinese on almost every continent on the globe and taught thousands of realtors to do the same. So today's topic is how to advertise for Chinese buyers for free. Well, almost. So I think you heard about the recent announcement that Zillow, one of the world's largest websites, real estate websites, has partnered with a Chinese partner. The name of the company they partnered with is Ehouse China. They formed a new website, a new company. Actually, the website already exists, but they partnered on listings so that Zillow will now share listings on the Chinese website Leju, and on it's spelled Leju.com. They will take the feed, so all of the Zillow listings will go on to the Leju site for free. That's what we're hearing so far. So we want to give you, I've read a lot of, I've seen a lot of announcements, and basically everything I read online is the same information. So obviously nobody knows anything about the deal. And being in China, and actually I know some of the guys involved, so I wanted to give you a kind of an insider view of this deal. What, if anything, if it's important to you and how you can use it. And I think you'll find this podcast very, very helpful. So if you can get out a pen, I think it's a good idea to get out a pen and think about some of these points here. First question is kind of a basic question, but I want to go back before we start the podcast and just talk about why target Chinese buyers. What's the point in targeting Chinese buyers? I'll give you a couple statistics. Chinese buyers have spent more than $11 billion on properties in the U.S. Last year, up until March 2013. And making them the number 2 investors in the U.S. and very big investors in Canada, in Australia, in Cyprus, in Spain, in Portugal, in Australia, in New Zealand, in Singapore, in Hong Kong. Chinese are rising to the top of the foreign investor list in all these countries. Actually, if you look at, let's say, for example, the U.S., the Chinese are number 2 to the Canadians. But if you look more closely, I think you'll see that a lot of the Canadians actually are Chinese who settled in Vancouver after 97, and other Chinese who've settled in Canada and are actually purchasing property now down in the U.S. So the number 1 investors, some of them, a considerable portion of them are also Chinese. So the numbers are rising all the time. And all those statistics were from NAR. The median home purchase by Chinese buyers last year was $425,000, which is over $100,000 more than the average home buyer. 69% of all purchases were all cash purchases. So all these are from NAR statistics. The Chinese buyers are certainly a very good niche, and also a lot of the buyers are first-time buyers. So first-time buyers, when you settle in a new country and you buy, you tend to stick with your agent, just like everybody else does. So over 83% of first-time buyers stick with their agent for their next purchase. It's a good niche. Okay, so let's talk about this deal. And let's talk about how you, most importantly, can advertise in China and get Chinese buyers contacting you, sending you emails, adding you on social media, and wanting to buy houses in your area. How do you do that? Until now, it's been very difficult to advertise to Chinese. It's been very complicated. In my course, I've taught people a lot of different things that they can do for cheap or free or very low cost advertising. But it hasn't been easy because there has been no big partnerships or easy ways that they can list. A lot of the Chinese websites, number one, they're all in Chinese, which are difficult to read, obviously. And also, they don't have any sections for overseas properties. So if you look at an overseas Chinese website, there won't be a section for Australia. Even if you can read it, there's no section for Canada. it's only Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Shandong, and different parts of China. So there's no place that you can even advertise on a Chinese website. So the large websites like Anjuke or Fangjia, it's very difficult to find a place to even put up an ad. So we've trying to, in this podcast, we're trying to give you as many, ways as new things come out. I want to quickly tell you what they are, what they mean to you, how to use them, how you can maximize the value of them. So let's go with this deal. Okay, so Zillow partnered with E-House. Now, I think when you look at a partnership with a Chinese company, it's quite difficult for most brokers to understand, is this a smart partnership? Is this a real partnership? Should I spend my time? Should I upload my listings? What's the value in this thing? And I think this one here, I hope I can shed some light on that with this podcast. And I want to say first, I don't have any association with Zillow or E-House, so I'm not selling anything, and I'm just trying to give you my take on this partnership and how you can use it. Okay, so the battleground is heating up. There's no question. Zillow obviously gets massive amounts of hits in the U.S., and E-House is a massive company in China. So who is Zillow? Zillow has, I think is huge, has 70 million unique visitors monthly. They have over 2 million listings. So it's a huge website. It has a massive amount of traffic. 70 million unique visitors. That's a lot of visitors. So Zillow is a high traffic site. I believe it's number one and Truly is number two. But either way, it's a massive site. It's, I think a lot of the China Cash buyers and a lot of people listing are already putting listings on Zillow. So just for you that don't know, I just give you this idea. And I also want to say to the listeners from Australia, from New Zealand, from the UK, this will still affect you. So it's worth listening to this podcast because this will give you a lot of ideas about what's going to happen in the future, because things are changing very fast online. And I expect that we'll hear some new announcements from Alibaba and probably Rightmove in UK and realestate.com.au and some of these other big portals, because this deal is like the beginning of many deals. There's a lot of other deals recently announced. This is the most significant one, so I wanted to talk about it. I don't want to go into too many details because there's so many sites right now doing it, but rest assured that this will affect you, and the pieces of this deal will be interesting to you. So let's see. So Zillow's a massive website. And who do they partner with? Who is E-House? Who is this Matt? It's a Chinese company. Obviously, you don't know much about it probably. You probably don't know the president, Zhou Xin. You don't know about what they've done in the past. Let me give you a little insight into E-House. Actually, I know a lot of the E-House guys, and E-House is a very interesting company. It's not that old. E-House started, I think, officially about 2008, something like that. So it was about the time of the financial crisis in the U.S. E-House was started by Zhou Xin, like I said, his name, and he's not a ping pong champion. There's another guy with the same name, but it's not that guy. But he started in Jing'an, so that's why I also have my office in Jing'an. So that's why I know some of the E-House guys. But he started this company, and what they did, they're very different than most Chinese brokers, very different. And this affects the deal. E-House, basically what they do is they partner with large Chinese developers. So Country Garden, Greenland Group, Wangke, New World Development, the Wanda Group. These are massive development companies. And in China, they'll make like a development with, say, 1,000 apartments in it. Some of them are much larger than that and could be as small as 100, but most of the developments are pretty large in the major cities. So these developers, when they make a development, it's very, as you can guess, it's such a big deal that they have to sell all the properties, and they have to sell the properties fast. So that when the way they borrow money, they make the first, like they'll buy the land from the government, and they'll make like a clubhouse or something in the beginning, and then they'll have a mock-up, like a computer mock-up, and then they start selling. But when they start selling, they actually don't have the money to finish the project. So it's very important that the sales team can actually sell the project, because the money comes in and that finances the construction. So the developers are in a position where they need to go with the winner. They need to sell their properties. E-House is the number one choice. E-House practically has a monopoly on new properties in China. So any of these big developers, they're trusting E-House to sell their new properties, and they have a very huge team of sales team around China. They have an online, very well planned and executed online strategy of selling properties, and they're able to sell in the world's largest country. So they're the number one for new houses in China. So E-House is a smart company, and they partner with large developers, and they have a massive sales team. So let's see. So 1/6 of their sales, about 1/6, are resales. So not new homes. So somebody bought the house, they lived there, and they sold it. But 5/6, most of their houses are brand new. So they get, naturally, because they make the most money, they actually draw the best talent. So the best salespeople tend to gravitate towards E-House. Sorry to you other guys over there. If you're with a Chinese developer and the other team, E-House is definitely a player, either way you look at it. So E-House has another subsidiary company before called CRIC, and that's China Real Estate Information Corporation. So CRIC, what they do is they consult developers. So for example, let's say a developer is going to buy a piece of land and they don't know what to do with it, and they hire CRIC, which is E-House's, they were the parent company until they spun off. They'll take the land and they'll say, okay, they'll look at it, they'll analyze it, and they'll decide what it's best used for. So commercial space or residential space or luxury properties or whatever. They'll decide, and then they'll design that property. And then when the property's finished, when it's completed, E-House will sell it. So CRIC and E-House work hand in hand with the developers from the very beginning, planning. They have the best information about the customer, so they're trusted, and they're trusted to actually plan, and then E-House is trusted to sell. So a lot of people think that E-House should get into development, but they never have. They've never bitten the hand that feeds them, and they've always stayed out of the development. But they CRIC, which now is also a public company, so E-House and CRIC are serious players. Okay, so you got a good partnership there. Okay, now the CRIC, E-House, and Zillow, right? Basically, we're talking about three major players here, and they have basically merged to make another company, which is Leju, and this is going to be the website, leju.com. Now, when this partnership was announced, to make the deal even more interesting, China's largest internet company, which is a company called Tencent, Tencent. Tencent is a massive company in China. They really are huge, and they're going to go public in the U.S. Pretty soon, and it's expected they'll have $100 billion valuation. So you can imagine, I mean, the traffic is amazing. So Tencent also wanted in this deal. So Tencent bought into Leju, and they own, I think, 18%. I'm not sure the exact number, but Tencent, either way, they invested into this partnership also. Now, the thing that's interesting about Tencent is Tencent brings another piece of the puzzle. Okay, until now, you've had agents trying to advertise in China, but the difficulty has always been Chinese language. Some websites will give you a listing, but it takes time to translate. It costs money. So you have money and time, and often the website's not a huge famous website like Zillow or Leju, and so there's a lot of issues there. Now Tencent, they have the traffic, and they also have the technology. So Tencent, I'm throwing a lot of words at you here today, but maybe if you listen to this a couple times, you'll start to make sense out of all these companies. But it's all important in the deal. Tencent has a software called WeChat. And I don't know if you have WeChat, WE, just like me, you, we, and CHAT, WeChat. And if you don't have WeChat yet, I highly recommend downloading your phone, Android or iOS, and install WeChat, because this is the best way to keep in touch with your Chinese buyers. There's nothing better than, I'm not going to tell you next week there's a better one. This is it. Use this one forever. WeChat. You want to have WeChat on your phone because that will allow you to contact Chinese people much easier and to make Chinese friends. So WeChat, it's very similar to WhatsApp. And a lot of people say, and I believe them, is that WeChat is so big that Facebook bought WhatsApp to head off Tencent and WeChat coming to the US. Now, if you don't know WeChat, you would think that's crazy, but the more you know about WeChat and its viral nature, and also its fantastic features, I mean, it's just a great software. Even the foreigners in China, most foreigners in China don't use so many Chinese websites, but WeChat is an exception because it's just a great software. It's easy to use, it's fun, there's a good English version, it's fast, and it has tons of functionality. It works a bit like a walkie-talkie, but it's just a great software. So get WeChat either way. But Tencent brought that software, so some parts of the deal we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but what we're assuming is what they're announced is they're going to bring technology to help people connect, so that WeChat will also likely be integrated into the website. Now, I haven't read that anywhere, but that's what I'm guessing. I'm going to put my money on that they're going to integrate WeChat or some kind of chat mechanism into the website. So that would allow an agent you put your listing on Zillow, and Zillow automatically puts it on Leju and translates it in Chinese. And then you can, when someone they're interested in your property, they're going to send you a private message through WeChat where you'll be able to chat with them in real time. So you won't have to make a phone call. You don't have to worry about time zones. You don't have to worry about calling them in the middle of the night, waking them up. And also, you have time to think about your answer. So if they send you a question, you can look it up. If you're having, if they send you Chinese, for example, you can cut and paste, and you can use Google Translate, and you can kind of get an idea of what they're asking. Having a WeChat built into a software, into a website, is a absolutely fantastic idea, and it's just a dream really for agents because you don't have to answer the phone. You can check your messages whenever you want, and then you can contact your potential buyers directly. And also, which is the most important thing, is that you can see their timeline, so you can see what kind of people they are. You can see their pictures. You won't be able to read the Chinese, but you can learn a lot about a Chinese person by looking at their WeChat feed. Believe me, once you get on WeChat, you start adding people, you'll see quickly, very obvious, what people are doing because Chinese people like to post pictures. So on WeChat, so there's a lot of pictures. You can see their lifestyle, and you get a good idea of the buyer. So that helps you a lot, right? It helps you to contact them, it helps you to know them, and it does it instantly, and it's free. The Tencent investment is super interesting. So I want to say because a lot of partnerships in China fail. I mean, Google had trouble in China, eBay had trouble in China, Groupon had trouble in China. Why would this whole deal happen? Let's look at it first from the Ehouse perspective. Ehouse, as I said before, has partnerships with all the Chinese developers, and they sell their new properties, right? Now Chinese are buying abroad, and Chinese developers are buying land abroad and developing properties abroad. So if you're Ehouse and you have almost a virtual monopoly on off-plan properties, what do you do when they go overseas and start building in Los Angeles and New York and Australia, London's Canary Wharf? What do? You follow them. So that's what they did. That's what they're doing. So from Ehouse's perspective, it only makes sense to not only do this deal, but actually to follow up on this deal. And it makes monetary sense for them, and it makes logical sense that they would want to keep their fantastic Chinese developer clients. Why that's important is that you'll see a commitment from Ehouse, I think. because their clients are overseas. So developers, they'll also be putting their properties in London, for example, on Leju, and then buyers will see them in China. So there's a lot of reasons this deal could be good, and that's one of them there. Oh, by the way, if you do get WeChat on there, you can add me on there. My ID is Paul Salo, PaulSalo. If you just type in Paul Salo, you can add me, and you'll see my feed on WeChat. Okay, so they're going overseas, and also a lot of Tencent, okay, one of the investors in this new company, Leju, is also very big in e-commerce, and they're starting to use Tencent purchase properties to finance to finance a property. So we'll probably see in the future. This is not in the near future, but I think not too far future, you'll start to see Tencent being involved in somehow helping Chinese to purchase overseas, because they can. The company is massive, and the Tencent, they're just very smart company, and if they see an opportunity like this to get involved in a big business, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw Tencent also being a part of the financing part of the deal for buyers over in the U.S. and in Canada on this particular deal. Okay, so who is Leju? When you hear about a partnership in China, it's often very difficult to understand, because you have, let's say, for example, you have a German company and then you have a Chinese company partnering, because a lot of companies, they have to partner in China to come into China. So with any partnership, it just gets very complicated if you don't know the Chinese side, because you can't judge if this is smart, if this is going to last, if there's enough financing, if there's enough commitment, if the skill is there, if it makes sense, if there's going to be a future competitor from that own company, if they're trying to take technology and then copy it, it's very difficult to know all this stuff. So let me give you a kind of idea of Leju. Leju is not a new company. Okay, Leju, the website that Zillow is partnering with eHouse, already has revenue to about $335 million in 2013. So they had revenue of $171 million in 2012, and they had a profit of $42.7 million in 2013. Okay, so Leju is not just a WordPress template. I mean, this is a serious company already. Even this company alone is a serious player. Leju is filing for an IPO and $200 million. Credit Suisse, JP Morgan, and China Renaissance are the lead underwriters. So Leju is already a serious company, and they're filed already with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. So Leju is serious. They have money, they have profit, and they have big boys behind them. So Leju's visitors will have access to Zillow's, what we're hearing is Zillow's basically home search experience, all the data that Zillow has. So anything that's on Zillow is going to be on Leju, and it's going to be translated into Chinese. So anybody who puts a listing on Zillow will automatically get that on Leju in Chinese, and that's amazing. Now, if this all plays out, I hope this works as they announced, because that's what I'm just going by what's being announced and what I know. It looks like that's the case, is that if you post on, you can wait until it goes live, until the partnership officially starts. I think it's in June or something like that, or July. But either way, that's what we're looking at right now, is that all Zillow listings will be on Leju in Chinese. So this has never happened before. There's never been a website in Chinese where you can put your listing for free and get it translated into Chinese. And Zillow has free listings. They also have paid listings. And later in the podcast, we're going to talk about why you might want a paid listing, why that might be a good idea. And also might be a good idea to move quickly on this. So the first agents are going to have the biggest opportunity, is my take. And that's why I'm doing this podcast right now. So you're going to be able to message, you're going to be able to advertise in China for free if you want, or you can do the premium. And you can also hopefully message in real time using Tencent's technology, WeChat. So that is a real opportunity for anybody who wants to target Chinese. So I'll give you some of the takeaways here. So basically, U.S. and Canadian agents will have a real partner in China, because these all the players on the Chinese side they have massive traffic. Traffic in China, there's a few big companies that basically monopolize traffic. You're talking about some of these players in this deal. I don't think traffic's going to be a problem. I mean, already Leju has 63 million hits a month. So, I mean, already they have massive traffic. But potentially after the deal is complete, I wouldn't be surprised to see that number jump significantly, because there is significant interest in China for properties outside China. So you see Chinese buyers looking for information. They're trying to find information. They don't have enough information. And there's really nobody giving free information about this topic. This podcast is the only one that I know of, is that we're trying to teach you what works, what doesn't work. We're trying to put it into perspective. But I've never seen anything like it. Maybe there will be later, but right now, this is it. So you'll have, the other takeaway is it's going to be free to list. Okay, that's amazing right there, because people are paying hundreds of dollars a month to be on sites that have nowhere near the traffic of either of these companies, including Zillow and including E-House and Leju. I mean, these companies just dwarf anybody else in traffic, and they're giving it away for free. So it's a slam dunk in my mind to at least do free listings as soon as you can on Zillow and get those visible in China. Now, getting a listing in China and getting a good listing in China, something that's very attractive to Chinese and something that, will catch their attention, that's another issue. And that's what we teach in the product. So we'll teach you how to compete and how to do it right, because very soon listing in China is going to be easy, and it's going to be free, and it's going to be fast. So you'll have to be better than the average agent, and I can teach you how to do that. And that's something we do all the time. Okay, so again, another takeaway is eHouse has a virtual monopoly on sales of off-plan real estate in China. That right there is telling you that there's going to be a lot of traffic, there's going to be a lot of action on this new site. eHouse has the most powerful sales team in China. In China, regardless of what anybody says, offline sales just dwarf online sales. And an offline sales team has way more power in China than an online sales team for real estate. So that's always been the problem in China, is that you can have a high traffic website, but nobody buys any properties. Where you have on the ground agents presenting real properties in front of real people, deals happen, the wheels get moving, the wheels get greased, people get taken out to dinner, and they develop a relationship, and the buyers go overseas to look at properties. Okay, another takeaway is the functionality. The functionality is going to be very, very good, because obviously Zillow is easy to use. It's in English. It's. I think everybody has probably on this podcast has posted something on Zillow, but if you haven't, it might be a good time to start brushing up there on getting some listings out there. And if they get the WeChat functionality, it's a real winner on Leju, real winner. I've been saying for years that any company that gets WeChat on their website or partners with Tencent to get WeChat on their website is going to be the winner in the real estate site. I've been saying that for years. And it looks like Zillow might have managed to do this. So that is serious. That is, to me, that's just a great little add-on. And I sure hope that's what happens. So, yep, you'll be able to reach Chinese buyers who are ready to invest in the U.S. market with basically no extra time, no extra effort. It'd be free to advertise in China. Get ready to write those listings to get the attention of the 60 million new middle-class buyers in the next 3 years. It's basically, from my perspective, you're talking about a blue sky market. There's blue skies ahead, because with this website or with any advertising in China, especially if it's free, you're reaching deep into the Chinese mainland for buyers, and nobody else is doing that. So when you get your properties out there, you really have an opportunity to get those new buyers, newly wealthy buyers who, they might need more help than usual buyers. When you're moving countries, it can be difficult and you have different needs. But again, these are the people who, once they move in, they immigrate, their mothers, their fathers, their wife's mother and father come over. They tend to buy more properties. So this will be easy to be free and visible in China. Translation, that's another issue. Everybody's always worried about translation. People have spent a lot of money. I know a company, believe it or not, that spent $100,000 on translation, and it wasn't even useful because they didn't know what they're doing. So translation can be a real sticking point. So in this case, what we're hearing is that everything will be translated. I don't know if it's going to be translated by people, I'm assuming on Leju's staff, or maybe they're going to outsource it, but the listings will be in Chinese. So that right there is very good. Next issue is going to be over the Great Wall. China's government has a policy of blocking anything that they deem they don't like, basically, and so Facebook is blocked. You can't use Facebook in China unless you pay for a special software, which is not easy to use and not usable actually in some cities in China. Twitter is blocked. YouTube is blocked, and a lot of things are blocked, right? So this website is a Chinese website, started with a Chinese team and one of the most powerful men in China. Naturally, it's going to load very fast. It's going to be very usable for the Chinese side. And that's another issue. A lot of websites, when people make websites for Chinese people, it's often very unusable for the Chinese side. And if you show it to a Chinese person, they won't even know where to start. Even though the website will be in Chinese, it won't be intuitive interface for a Chinese user. So obviously, Ehouse and Leju know what they're doing, and this is a completely Chinese website. So obviously, you'll be using the Zillow side to put the listings up, but on the Chinese side, for the Chinese buyers, it'll be very easy to use, it'll be very intuitive, and it'll also rank number one or very high on Google or Baidu, the Chinese search engine. So you have a chance to advertise. And another thing to think about is that eHouse has that fantastic sales team. They're very smart brokers. They know what Chinese want. And if you can find a way to partner with some of eHouse's brokers, this would be a fantastic way to find a partnership if you're advertising on the website their company is partnering with. So that makes sense too, in my mind. Obviously, it all depends on your skill and it depends on how everything goes together, but it makes logical sense that if eHouse is investing a ton of money into a company, that if you invest and you put up listings in this company's new website, that you'll have a better chance to partner with their sales team, and their sales team is very good. So that's another good news. And these agents at eHouse, they know how to take the buyer from beginning stage all the way through the buying process. So as you do too. So these are professional Chinese salesmen and real estate agents. So good things there are possible. Again, they're not guaranteed in the deal, and you should always think about that, how to find partnerships, how to get leads from China. But this is obviously a good way to start. So in closing, I just want to say what to expect in the future. I would suspect that there's going to be more. I think that potentially, I can't say this for sure, but the paid advertising model might be going by the wayside. I don't know, but this is a very real possibility. If this deal, and it looks like it's going through, is going to happen, there's not a lot of reason to spend a lot of money on advertising. Listings are now basically free, just like a lot of Skype made phone calls free, and it changed everything. A lot of people like myself, especially calling overseas, I use Skype all the time because Skype doesn't cost me anything and it's easy to use. So why should I use my phone, which is more difficult to use, and area codes and things like that. And Skype, it's really great. So there's a lot of technology that just changes the game. And I think this type of partnership could be one of those things. I would suspect it's going to be. But obviously the market hasn't reacted, and nobody has given a thorough analysis of this so far. So that's what I'm trying to do for you on this podcast. So what do we expect in the future? I would say a few things. One of them you might not care about, but I'll mention it anyway, is that another big player in China is a site called Alibaba. And they also have another site called Taobao. And Alibaba and Taobao are just massive companies. And they're also planning an IPO in the US of a similar amount of about $100 million. So we're talking about big companies, or is it billion? Actually, it might be billion. 100 billion. What am I saying? 100 billion. Huge company. And it's going to be a huge IPO. I don't know if it's going to be a good investment. I have no idea. But I can tell you this, that Alibaba is a very important e-commerce site, and maybe the most important e-commerce site in China. And they've also done a lot of innovative things recently, including starting the basically a fund. It was becoming so popular that the Chinese banks were trying to basically shut it down because it was so popular. Alibaba's hitting a lot of home runs recently, and they're making money hand over fist. So, I wouldn't be surprised. Often Tencent, one of the investors in Leju, and Alibaba, these two companies are they are just like, the two sports teams that are always competing against each other all the time. I would be very surprised if Alibaba doesn't announce another partnership in the near future with a foreign overseas website like Zillow. So if Alibaba partnered with Trulia, I wouldn't be surprised. If they partnered with Rightmove, if they partnered with Real Estate Com AU, none of this stuff would surprise me. In fact, it would surprise me if it didn't happen. So look for more partnerships, so there's more opportunities to advertise in China. But again, these are great sites. They have a lot of traffic. They have a deep knowledge of China, and they have a massive Chinese company. So they can. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen next, because until now nothing's been happening. Nothing. I'm always helping people to advertise in China, and we're trying to figure out what's the best way. Because before you advertise, you don't want to spend your hard-earned money if you don't know you're going to get a return. So I'm always trying to figure out what is the absolute smartest way to spend your money, that you get the maximum return, whether you're selling luxury houses, or you're selling land, or you're selling hotels, whatever you're selling. What's the best way? I'm always trying to figure out, and that's what we're going to continue to do in this podcast. As things come out and as things change, today it's March 4th, March 5th, and I will go ahead and update as things change. I had a couple more points on Alibaba because they just bought a Tango Me, which is a basically free video call company in Silicon Valley. So they're shaping up. It's very similar to, it sounds like similar to a WeChat. So we're going to see a lot of competition in the near future. So with this, what should you do? What's the first thing you should do? I would say the first thing to do is sign up for WeChat, because WeChat is a great way to connect with your Chinese buyers. The next thing is I would seriously consider putting up ads on Zillow in anticipation of this deal. Whether you do a paid one or a free one, I think if you do a free one, sometimes you don't get the leads for your area. There might be 5 brokers getting leads. If you pay, I think you get the leads directly that are for your place. I'm not sure. You got to check with Zillow on that. Again, I'm not associated with any of these companies. But look at the options that you have on Zillow for marketing. And if it's easy for you, and if it doesn't cost you much money, you might get a big, added bonus when this thing goes live. So definitely the first brokers that advertise, okay, let's say you're not from, obviously if you're from Los Angeles, you're from New York, you're from Vancouver, Toronto, you want to get on there because you're competing against a lot of brokers, including Chinese brokers. And half of the listeners on this call are Chinese. So a lot of the people that buy our product are Chinese and use our services and use our training. So You're going to be competing with a lot of different people who have fantastic language skills, deep understanding of the buyer, and are very aggressive and always trying to improve themselves and learn more. So I would say you want to get on there quick. Anytime there's an opportunity like this, I would suss it out, see if it makes sense for you. Then you want to get in there quick. And I think you want to write fantastic listings, and you want to do it. You want to present your area and your properties in a way that gets the attention of the Chinese buyers. And that right there is what you want to do. And that's what in our product, we teach you all that stuff. So if that sounds interesting, you can go to ChinaCashBuyers.com and sign up, and we'll send you our offer of the product and have a look at that. And that's what teaches you all the things you need to do to take that buyer, that original lead, from like an original email to a closed deal. And we can take you all the way, and we do it all the time. So either way, ChinaCashBuyers.com. And I wanted to say one last thing that I thought was quite interesting. I was looking at Zillow, and I was thinking about Zillow. What is about Zillow that makes Zillow attractive from or a good partner for eHouse? Zillow focuses on data a lot. They focus on numbers, traffic, and they want to be number one in traffic and data numbers. And also, they do something interesting. They have news, and a lot of the news is quite viral. So maybe a movie star sells their house, or somebody, that kind of stuff. They have stories like that, and people make fun. I've heard people, saying that's not serious, and they should do more serious things. But those kind of stories, fun stories about famous people, Arnold Schwarzenegger and anybody who's famous in China, buying and selling houses, or any kind of news on pop stars selling their houses. This goes over very well with Chinese buyers, actually. And I talk a lot about the ways that you can, in the product, I talk about ways that you can make your listings and make your area interesting and paint a picture for the Chinese buyer. But I think Zillow does a pretty good job of that, and that makes it attractive because they got the right they're in the right groove. So thank you very much for listening to podcast number 3. Our podcast is China Cash Buyers Podcast on iTunes. You can sign up there. Our website is ChinaCashBuyers.com, and go over and like our Facebook page, which is Facebook.com/ChinaCashBuyers. And this is Paul. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope good luck with getting your listings out in front of Chinese buyers.